Inspired by kingdom principles that work for you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Power of Her Story with your host, Raquel Beneby Hart. The Power of Her Story is all about women helping women win from all around the world. I am so excited because this is season 2. If you've missed any of our shows, feel free to go and visit RBNTV Studio at our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. And today is no less different. Today is in a very exciting story about a very, I would say, what would I call her? A mother extraordinaire. You know, in life, a lot of challenges come our way. The journey of life is about people, places, and perspectives. And what we find is that along this journey of life, we find ourselves often challenged. We have different challenges. Some people challenges maybe finances due to the economy. Some persons challenges may be relational because of marriage issues. Some persons challenges maybe with their children, work challenges. But we all have challenges. These are the things that makes us stronger and makes us better at the end of the day. And so today we are talking about a woman who has overcome significant challenges and making the best of her world. You know, illness faces us and it's touched probably every family around the world. And today, our guest is no different. She has been challenged with health as it relates to her son. How is it that she can be a mother trying to raise her son who may find himself a little bit challenged? I don't know because unfortunately, I should say rather fortunately, I have not had that challenge. But for other women who are out there struggling and trying to figure out how do I do this, I want you to help me welcome our special guest for today, Letitia Campbell-Parker. And she's going to share about her journey as it relates to raising her son. And I'm just really excited to be able to talk to this woman. She's been doing phenomenal things in helping to motivate and encourage other mothers along this journey of having to raise a child that would be considered challenged. And so I'm hoping I'm politically correct in saying it that way, but let's welcome Letitia Campbell-Parker.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hello and welcome, welcome. And it is such a delight to have you here. And so before we get any further, and no, I'm going to save that surprise towards the end. Welcome, Letitia, to our show, The Power of Her Story, Season 2. And you are our first guest.
Woo-hoo.
And so this is very exciting for me to be able to share. And so we're continuing having sharing the journey of women from around the world. It's about women helping women win. As you know, sometimes we are faced with challenges and we feel overwhelmed as to how do I deal with this? And, you know, as I mentioned in my prologue, that sometimes we simply don't know what to do, but there's somebody else who may have had that journey of life and have overcome. And I know you are overcoming because you're living it, you're working it, you're doing it, and you can see how beautiful she looks. She is not even stressed. I see no gray hair, lots of blue hair, but no gray hair.
That's why you don't see gray hair. I covered it with blue.
Okay. And so that says to me she's doing something right. And so, Letitia, just tell us a little bit about who are you? Give us a bit about your background.
Well, how far do you want me to go?
Well, as far as you'd like to go.
Okay, well, I guess after college, after university, when I first came to school and I came back home from Canada, I went to work at a veterinary hospital. I was very good with dogs, with animals. You know, animals tend to be easier to deal with than people. Then I went into the pharmaceutical field for 7 years from 2012 to 2019. And in 2019, I was laid off from my job June 30th. And, you know, in hindsight, they had legitimate reason for laying me off. But since that time, I've been home dealing with my son, dealing with the ups and downs, the ins and outs of life. And it's been tough. It's been amazing. It's been so rewarding because I actually see results. And I figured out that he is my why. So as long as he is excelling and he is progressing, I am fine. I am great.
Well, that is very interesting. You said that your son is your why. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit more about your son. Is he your only child?
I have a daughter I inherited through marriage. She is 18 and she lives in Canada. She's away at school in Canada. We still talk to her every day, every night. And, we can't wait for her to come back home, at least to visit us. She was always such a big support and such a great help with him. My son, Tegan, Lord Tegan, some call him. He is a character. He is a whole lot of fun. He's exciting. He's unpredictable. And, coming from a point where he was seemingly in his own world to now that he cracks jokes and he mocks you and he says witty stuff back to you, it's so amazing to see him grow. And everything he does is just exciting. It's truly awesome to me.
Wonderful. So tell us the story about Tegan. There's a whole lot more to this exciting young man. And so persons could really have a true appreciation of Tegan and how this all started.
Get my tissue. Okay.
Yeah.
So Tegan was born in 2017. 2018, he had to go to the States to an ENT specialist to have tubes put in his ears, and he had his adenoids removed because he was having chronic ear infections and he just always had a fever. And the doctor, his pediatrician over here, told us he's not hearing properly, which could probably account for some of his delay in speech. And of course, speech is directly connected to your hearing. So if he can't hear us, he's not going to speak. So immediately, we hopped on a flight. We carried him to the Miami Children's Hospital and he got a surgery done. And, after that point, you're expecting to see everything skyrocket. He can hear now, so he can speak now. I thought, even though I have a scientific background, I thought 1 and 1 makes 2. He's going to be speaking. He wasn't speaking. So a year later, we went back to the States. We went on vacation this time, but I was noticing things. I was reading things. I wasn't discussing it with anyone, but as a mother, we decided just to, do a follow-up visit with the ENT specialist to have the tubes removed. And he took the tubes out. They already fell out, but they were in the air canal. And when he was examining him, just his cursory examination, he said, okay, so I'm going to refer him to go and see a neurologist because there's something going on. And anyone who knows me and anyone who's a mother knows automatically, I'm like, what? Like, what is your area of specialty again? So he said, well, I can tell that he's somewhere on the spectrum just by the way he's behaving right now. And I'm like, but you're an ENT specialist, so let's just keep it like that. But anyway, he gave us the referral. We scrambled around with the insurance with the Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital. We got him in. He went to the neurologist and, they put in their team of neurologists and they examined this and head size and height and weight and behavior and eye contact and everything. And it was really, really overwhelming at that minute because I knew what they were going to say. I just didn't want someone to say it out loud. And they said, okay, well, yeah, he's definitely on the spectrum. But the way they said it was just so, he's just on the spectrum. It's fine, And I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know how to digest that because even though I knew, it didn't become reality right then. So they said he is diagnosed as nonverbal autistic at this time. And, you can read up on it. And of course, during this whole trip, I'm still reading. And I'm like, when you look at Google and you Google anything, right? You Google a headache and they tell you what? You have brain cancer. So you Google nonverbal autism. People, never learn to speak all through their lives. And I wasn't ready for that. So when we came back home, I called the Ministry of Education. I'm like, I need an evaluation done because these people at Joe DiMaggio in the States didn't know what they were doing. I need a second opinion. So we took him. He got the second opinion. Same thing. Nonverbal autism. If they had said something different, I was going to go with them, right? So this was now in 2019, March of 2019. By the way, the neurologist at Joe DiMaggio said, you need to come back and do a microalveolar analysis, Fragile X syndrome testing. And I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? And it's just overwhelming. I guess they're trying to cover their backs, but they're testing for mental retardation. They're testing for the odds of us having another child with special needs. So we did have to take him back to do all that. All throughout 2019, he was going to a regular school at that time, and he's still going to that regular preschool, but he still wasn't speaking much. So he wasn't speaking much. He wasn't eating. He'd eat one thing for the whole 2, 3 months at a time, which is devastating because, you're worried about nutritional value, health concerns, his development. He wasn't cognizant of what was going on around him. You couldn't say, go get the ball, because he didn't understand. He really didn't know. So it took me a few months. I guess no one noticed that it was taking me a while to log on to this diagnosis, because right away I got him into his occupational therapy, I got him into speech therapy. He was off and running. But when he would be in his occupational therapy, I would be outside in the car having a meltdown. I was crying, screaming the whole time. And the occupational therapist would say, we could hear you inside. You need to calm it down, go drive down the corner, and then come back. And this was my every Saturday, every Sunday with him. So a few months later, I think he said one word, just one word. And I'm like, there's hope. Don't just give up yet. Don't just resign him to being what you read on Google, because people only document the most detrimental stuff on Google. So I started signing on to him and I started investing in him. And like I said, I was unemployed at the time. And this was after the time of Hurricane Dorian. So I was going through a depression because of the hurricane. I lost friends in the hurricane. I lost my job. My husband and I were unemployed because he was unemployed because of Dorian, but I was unemployed before. So now you're worried about the insurance benefits, the school fee. My daughter is going to get ready to go off to school. How do we handle all these bills? He needs therapy. The therapist is not coming anymore from Nassau. It was a lot. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was scared all the time. So now being faced with, he doesn't have the therapy here that he needs. We had to take him out of speech therapy for other reasons. I decided that I had to be it for him. I'm not working. I wanted to be a business owner, so I had to be it. I wanted to be his go-to person. So that is where my business came in. So now I decided that let me do some constructive reading, some constructive research. All the time I'm sitting home watching Netflix because you have nothing else to do. Let me study. Let me learn something because I love to learn. And I learned all the different therapies he would need. I learned how to be creative, how to think outside the box and get him to do stuff. And you know what I noticed? New Year's Day, 2020, he started singing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I recorded it. I have like 10 recordings of it because I didn't believe what I was hearing. And I was sending it around to everyone. And they were like, yeah, he's singing A, B, C. He mumbled over that elemental P part. But he was singing it. So I'm like, he can speak. That's all I wanted. I don't care what you're saying. He could speak. So then I'm now more motivated. And I'm like, we got to get on this. So I got onto everything he's doing. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling on, but you asked me about a sensitive topic. It is what it is.
As a matter of fact, I didn't interrupt you because I think persons needed to be able to feel what you feel and get the full gist of the story, because as we move on, and there are some questions that are coming that I want to be able to delve into, but the setting that background is pretty, that foundational background is pretty important.
Okay.
So that when persons, we tend to see people in the aftermath.
Right.
And it's like, oh, nothing really happened for you. But for you, like you said, I wouldn't look at you and see you as someone who was having meltdowns and screaming every Saturday and so forth like that. But so
every
many
Saturday, every night.
But you know how many women are doing that even
Yeah.
now without your situation, with situations that they're faced with.
Yeah.
And so we're able to connect with them and for them to connect with you to understand that I am you are me, but I've overcome and I'm overcoming. So can you. And so that's the power in her story, is to see, the journey that we have not arrived, but as we go through the process of the journey, we are overcoming daily. And so please continue. Don't worry. We got a few minutes here.
So yeah, around that time, I just started.
You were sharing some more about your story, but I can ask you another question actually.
Okay, good.
There's another question I really wanted to ask you, because you shared a bit about the feeling of being depressed, the feeling of feeling overwhelmed, and especially being married, I can imagine the strain that would have placed on your marriage, because here it is, you're concerned about the bills. Okay, both of us are now unemployed. We have a special needs child who needs our attention, and we need money to be able to give him. Because I know as mothers, we would do anything and everything for our children, particularly when we find them, um, I would use, for lack of a better term, facing crises, so to speak. We want to rescue, and we want to know our children are safe, our children are good, they're
Right.
okay. And so we do whatever it takes. Tell us about your support system. How did you eventually get through this to bring you to this particular point at this time?
Okay, so in terms of a support system, my support system is very limited, to be honest. It is. It's limited to immediate family, a few friends, and I can't really say I blame people for not being as supportive as I'd like them to be, as I've learned that I can't measure people by the same yardstick. I can't expect me from people. So everyone has, their situation going on. They have their kids, you have your lives, fine. I think people would tend to be more supportive if he was in special needs, because, I don't know how I would react to a friend saying, my child has special needs, but I need you to take him for the night. Like, I don't know how I would have reacted to that if I wasn't in that situation. So I can understand people kind of shying away. And then again, people are uncomfortable with the conversation. That's why I'm so outspoken about it, because, when we first came back, I kind of was reaching out to everyone. I'm like, he was diagnosed as being on the spectrum, and you could see the tears were in my eyes. And everyone would kind of say, oh, I'm sorry. And in hindsight, it's like, what are you sorry for? Like, he's not dying. He's not sick. He thinks differently. He learns differently, but he is fine. He's a healthy, very happy, very active little boy. So the support system, and I must give credit to the support system that is there. My family, my husband, my daughter. Oh my God. Listen, if I were to tell you the support this girl has given me, like, she could look at me in the house and she'd say, you need a break. Why don't you go out and have a glass of wine, and I'll take him for you for the night. And, I break down crying right there, because that's what I need somebody to say to me. And I trust her with him. But in terms of the other support mechanisms out there, I can admit that I tend to be the mama bear. And when he was diagnosed, you tend to hover. And I don't want him to be around just anyone, because he wasn't communicating at the time. So you can't tell me if something happened. He's not eating this, he's not eating that. And everyone is not going to be as flexible as I am in terms of his eating habits. If he has a meltdown or if he has an outburst, what are you going to do? How do you control it? And in our Bahamian society, the first thought is you need to beat him. I'm not sending my child to you to be disciplined. So, yeah, I tend to just keep him to myself, keep him to the people who know how to deal with him, because I don't want to have no falling out with you over my child. It's going to be a show.
So it seems like it was more of an educational journey for both yourself and also those persons you interacted, because it was something new to you and it was something new to others. Because what you're sharing even now, as you speak to, um, like you said, I love the way you put it. He learns differently. He just does things differently.
Mhm.
He has a capacity by which to understand, but he just does it his way. He may
Right.
not do it your way. So I think it's an educational journey, where persons have to now understand the different perspectives. And so it even in with persons who don't have special needs,
All
I
right.
think it's a principle that we see things through different lenses. And so we often try to get people to conform to the way that we are, because that's what makes you comfortable. So people could come uncomfortable
That's
because
normal.
exactly, that's their definition of normal. But what really is normal, and who's
Right.
who's who's created that normal? And
Right.
so because he may be in his world, y'all are not normal.
All right. And
And
then if
so
you look at it really, if you really look at it, all of us are a little bit on the spectrum. We all have little quirks and things that the neurologists that diagnose us now would say,
Mhm.
you are on the spectrum.
So define that for me, because this is it's new, for me to be able to speak. So when you say they're on the spectrum, what exactly does that mean?
So the autism spectrum is a neurodevelopmental disorder. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's not a mental disorder. It's not an illness. It's just a developmental delay per se. So
Mhm.
it's typically characterized by delays in speech, a lack of eye contact, social interaction is typically not good, communication skills in general is not good, cognitive abilities are not good, and just delays in meeting targets and milestones. So, when you go to the pediatrician with your child, they say, is he saying mama, dada, baba, all that stuff? And he's saying it, and Tegan was saying it, and then he lost it and he regressed. So it's like a delay, and you can't pinpoint the exact moment he regressed or quote unquote he got autism. There are all kind of theories, whether he was born with autism, whether vaccinations, whether it's environmental. No one knows exactly what it is, but it's just a series of delays.
Okay, okay. So thank you for educating me on that. And so I love the way you explained it. It's just a delay. And so usually we would tend to look at a 5-year-old and say, okay, they should be walking,
Right.
talking, eating, doing this. But you may find that, okay, they're not, but eventually it happens because I know today Tegan is doing everything. So
In his words, you're doing too much.
I really wish at some point he was actually on the show so persons could actually see that this young man is phenomenal. I've seen the various videos on Facebook because, as I read, as I followed you on Facebook and read pieces of your story as you shared, and, sometimes people are ashamed because um, back in the day,
Yeah.
having a child what we consider a special needs child, it was a taboo. Nobody talked about it. You didn't see the child. The child always kept in the house, and you just didn't want anybody to know. But you have shared your journey publicly. And did you see this also as a healing for you to be able to, um, I guess, embrace interaction? Because, social media, particularly Facebook, it's a whole world, or sometimes people you don't even know, to be able to share your story with people you don't even know. Um, what was that like? Because I've seen so many videos with Tegan progressing and doing and all of these, these, I call it these quirky statements. I'm like, huh?
Teganisms. Teganisms. We're going to trademark the term Teganisms.
Okay, Teganisms. Okay, we're gonna get that. And so, what did you have to do? What caused you to actually begin to share publicly?
Well, the thing is, when we first came back, and believe it or not, autism spectrum disorder, special needs in general, is still taboo. There are still people who are not comfortable taking their kids out of the house, taking them in public, because of the meltdowns, because of behavioral issues, because of the stares, because of the stigma associated with having a child with special needs. And I couldn't buy into that. That wasn't the vision for my child. Like when I was pregnant, you have in your mind, going to carry my child to the store, going to dress him up, you're going to wear this, go here, take pictures here, go play with the animals, go to the beach, all that stuff. That was my vision. When I came back from having all these tests done, and I kind of realized that this is life. This is not something that's going to be cured. It's not something that's just going to go away magically. I had to adjust, and I had to realize that, we're going to work with it, and you just learn to work with him. So I didn't want to be the parent, and I'm not being judgmental at all, but I just couldn't have my child stuck in the house and can't carry him out. Now, there was a time, and this is where the tears come in. When after Tegan was diagnosed, and you kind of get into the cycle of going from home to work. You drop the kid off to the sitter or to school. You pick him up after school. Oh, it's cold, it's drafty. You got to hurry get the child inside the house before it gets too cold or he gets a cold. Tegan couldn't go anywhere. He would not stop to go to the food store, the pharmacy, nothing. There is a food store on my corner. And if I needed a bag of rice to cook for dinner that night, I would have to come home, drop him to his sister, go back out to get the rice, and then come back home and cook. So, it's a bunch of running up and down. And my husband is at work. So I kind of got frustrated with it. I was really upset. So I decided to start doing what I call a desensitization with him. So every Saturday after his therapy session, after I cried and he cried and we cried together, on the way home, I'd say, okay, let's stop to Chappie's Pharmacy. Small, it's okay. It's easy to deal with. Pulling into the parking lot, the meltdown started. The screaming, the kicking, the pulling, the grabbing, the everything in the backseat. And it just was so painful to watch my baby going through this. And I'm like, I don't understand why. Nothing has happened. So I said, okay, first day, we just drove to the parking lot, went right back out. He cried, he screamed, or whatever. Okay, cool. The next day after work, we drive back to the same parking lot. He didn't cry the next day, and this was every day, every day, no matter how tired I was or how sick, your stomach hurting, your head hurting, you had a hard day at work, we just have to do it. So at one point we got there, I was able to take his seatbelt off and he didn't cry. Then I was able to let him come out of the seat and just sit on the side of the car. He didn't cry. Then we got into the parking lot. He didn't cry. And this was just all progression. It took a few weeks until one point I got him to, and this is just for example, I got him to go into Chappie's Pharmacy. And we literally walked in, picked up a Skittles. This is your reward for going to Chappie's Pharmacy. And listen, when I got in the car, I had everybody on speakerphone. And I was like, we went to Chappie's, we went to Chappie's. And they're like, what does that mean? Like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because it took me a few weeks to get him to get over that fear, the routine, the lack of social interaction. And then now in hindsight, when you do the actual research about it, kids on the spectrum and people on the spectrum, they see things differently than you and I. So whereas you walk into Chappie's and it was just Chappie's, he is seeing the lights flickering. You don't see that. He's hearing the cashier's cell phone ringing in her pocket. He's hearing her beeping and touching the register. Someone in the back there is clicking their gum. He's hearing all that. It's overwhelming. It's a new environment. So now I can understand, okay, it's not just I need to beat him. You don't need to be crying, oh, nothing's happening. A whole lot is happening. I just don't understand. So I had to learn to be much more understanding. Whereas, I'm a person who doesn't like to be dismissed. And I feel that kids on the spectrum are usually dismissed, like you just being rude. No, something is going on.
Wow. Now that requires a whole lot as a mother. That was a lot of patience, like you said, in spite of what you may be feeling personally. You sacrificed everything to ensure that you were there for him and helping him through this process because probably, like you said, after the first, second, or third day, either that child would have gotten beaten and or, it would have been, forget this isn't working. I just give up, end of the story. You didn't give up in the process. Where are you today now as it relates to Tegan?
Well, since you asked, Tegan now speaks. That's first and foremost. And he speaks and, to the typical person or to you, you might not understand everything he says. He's not articulating perfectly, but he speaks. You can understand him. He says what he wants to eat, what he doesn't want. If he comes to you in the morning, he likes to negotiate. So I'll say, Tegan, time to do homework. And he'll say, I need 2 Skittles, 2 blue. And now we're at a point that everything he does, and he negotiates on a scale. So if it's homework, it's 2 blue. If I say go clean up, 4 blue, or 2 blue, 2 red. And he negotiates, and I love it. It's so amazing. I'm like, no, I'll give it to you later. So then he say, do homework later. And it's hilarious to me. He cracks jokes. He understands. He plays around. And, we have games. And I am just so enthused and so passionate about everything he does. He's still in school. He goes to a regular preschool, and his teachers in the school is so amazing. They are amazing with him. And I'm not going to do a plug for any preschool or anything, but you can hit me on the side if you want to know.
So has COVID affected this process in any way? Because, COVID, which has been, I call it now, been the watchword for the past year. Everybody's, life has been impacted by COVID. You just mentioned how your husband was impacted by Hurricane Dorian. How has COVID impacted this whole progress that you've been making?
Now, see, COVID is a double-edged sword for us because a big part of his development and his progression was the social interaction. And because his sister moved away to school and she's much older, and it's only him here, I already resigned myself to, I'm going to be your buddy. We got to go and play all the time. If I'm tired, if I'm sleepy, if I'm hurting, we're going to go to the park. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to play. We're going to have play dates every week. Every week, Tegan has a play date. Obviously, with COVID, we can't do the play dates. So now we had to learn to just video call. He has a whole roster of people he calls every night. And if you miss your call, well, you missed your call. Because by the time you call back, he's on with someone else. I'm serious.
I wonder who he got that from.
you seriously can't get through. But also, the plus side of COVID, I had the time to just sit there and concentrate on him. So every morning I would get up, you get up, you do your little exercise or whatever, you eat all that stuff. And I'm like, I have a whole lesson plan today. So I'm like, I get to be a teacher. And I had something planned for him. Today we're working on fine motor skills. Today we're working on gross motor skills. Today we're working on numbers, colors, sight words. And he is so excited about learning and he is so excited about being praised. You didn't even have to offer him candy back then. Back then.
Now,
Now,
hold on. Now you shared some. We're going to be wrapping up shortly, but I want to get to some key points. Your mother, well, first and foremost, your wife, your mother, and a mother also of another daughter. How did you balance? Because it seems as though Tegan takes a lot of your time in terms of preparation, of being very, extremely creative in terms of being able to engage him and not just engage, but get impact through that engagement. You have a daughter that's off in school, and to be able to ensure that she's doing well. A husband who has his needs, because I'm hearing Tegan, Tegan, Tegan. How did you balance, or are you still struggling in balancing it all, in giving your time and attention to everyone? Because let's add a job in the mix of that, because I think you spoke about having a business now. um, how do you balance it all?
in all honesty, I don't. A lot of things have fallen down, and I had to go back and pick up something. My daughter, like I said, she's a great support system. She's not someone who was needy per se in terms of attention. She was just always right there. And I told her from the beginning, like, Tegan has a problem with social skills, so we have to bombard him. We have to always be in his face. So we would be there spending time with him, but me and her together. Then there are the times I had to say, okay, I haven't spent time with her last week. She's getting ready to go up to school. This is pre-COVID, of course. Let's go to the spa because I need a day. I needed my time too, just as a woman. And she's someone who's great to hang out with. Now, in terms of being a wife, I did fall off on that for a while, but my only saving grace is my husband works a lot and he works hard. So he's not home most nights. And that's the time I'm dealing with Tegan. So by the time my husband is home, Tegan is in school. So that part kind of balances out. And my husband is also very understanding. He understands Tegan needs a lot more time and attention. And he sees the progress he's making because he'll say, did he just say that? Or he did that by himself? Or did you teach him that? And I'm like, he's making the progress. So you see my efforts are coming in. Now, trying to be a businesswoman, and I've also founded a nonprofit autism awareness foundation. And I'm juggling a lot one time. Thank God I've learned to run off of 2 to 3 hours of sleep because, it's just a lot.
So as we prepare to wrap up a bit, you shared a whole lot with us, and I normally like to, after the conversation, the key things that stand out for me, you spoke about really patience, not giving up, that tenacity and that drive, that because if you did, probably Tegan, we wouldn't hear about Teganism, your creativity actually in the process, because you took the time to now firstly educate yourself and take that and create lessons to be able to share and teach him, and and the balance in terms of how do I balance everybody in the family, because you're the focal point in the family to everybody, as the wife, the mother, now you have a whole NGO that speaks to that and bringing more awareness and educating persons more about this. And so these are some key points, and these are principles, quite frankly, that no matter what situation that you're faced with, you talked about both yourself and your husband being unemployed at one time, but I didn't hear you say that you gave up. Mind you, the reality is you may have been challenged, but it changed you for the better.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes people allow challenges change them for the worse, but through challenges we make choices. What kind of choices are we making during our challenges? And the support system that you spoke to was not necessarily a broad support system, but it was a trusted, loyal support system that propped you up in the midst of meltdowns, that propped you up when you just needed a break. Because I can only imagine, because I tell them the energy sometimes I see on these, I'm like, I'm already tired just watching. Because you imagine the person who is actually, actively involved. And so, on behalf of the Power Story, we salute you. We congratulate you for being one of those women who are overcoming the odds and to be able to share your story, because there are other women out there. Your story may not be one of a child who is on the spectrum. I know right now there's another lady who sent me a note as it relates to her child being born with brain issues. And so there are different challenges. We have loved ones who are, presently COVID positive, that we don't know if we'll get to see them again because, they are in isolation. And sometimes you get that note that says, unfortunately, they would have passed. So life throws at us so many different challenges. But the principle of life is you don't give up. God is always there with us, and He is there guiding us, and nothing really catches God by surprise. So, all of we going through, He gave that to Letitia to be able to carry that weight because He knows Letitia can do it. And you made choices that now that other women who may have children who are on the spectrum as it relates to autism and any other issue that they may find with their children, be it through medical health or behavioral issues, you the bottom line is you can overcome it. You just don't give up. You may kick, scream, and cry, go in the back of the bush, or like you said, go a couple corners down and scream
Yeah.
it out, and then come back and go buy them Skittles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, what would you say to another woman at this time who may find herself having challenges, be it a child who is also autistic or any other challenge for that matter?
I'd say just don't give up, like you said. Things do tend to get better. And what I found through this journey was God was really testing my faith. I had really lost my faith in everything and God. And I could be honest and say that. And I found that God was testing my faith because when I started believing again and when I started praying again, things would literally happen within 24 hours. And it's like, wow, this is just a test for me. This is God saying, come through, come all the way through. So it does get better. When it comes to special needs kids, I honestly, genuinely believe the way God blessed you with those kids, God blessed those kids with you. You
Mhm.
were hand selected, and there was no one better for that child. So the child that has behavioral issues and kicking and screaming and punching and biting, and trust me, I've had the bruises and I've had to go in the bathroom, and you don't get 5 minutes in the bathroom with a special needs child. You get one and
Mm.
go and suck it up and put it together. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. And you will be so delighted and overwhelmed and amazed. And that child will thank you later down the line when that child is excelling and exceeding because they can learn. All it takes
Mhm.
is commitment, perseverance, and the love of a
Mhm.
parent, family member, caregiver who is not willing to give up.
Wow, that's powerful. And you know, I missed out this other one. It was about perspective. How do you see that child? That child, like you say, learning differently. And we often pass judgments as when, like I said, as I mentioned earlier, when we're not the same.
Yeah.
But guess what? We're just looking through different lenses. What's the perspective that you see? And that's why I always say life is a journey of people, places, and perspectives. And it makes it very interesting because you have the peaks, you have the valleys, you have the cold days of snow caps, and then you have the hot summer days like we have here in the Bahamas. And you wonder what's going on. But that's all a part of the journey of life. Seasons of life, it changes. And seasons talk about being balanced because everything is not going to always be up high and everything is not always going to be down low. And so we just embrace, hold on for the ride, and just don't let go, and you keep at it. And so I have been delighted, Letitia, to have you as a guest. And I thank your husband and Tegan and your daughter for allowing you to be transparent and open with us as you share your story and a part of their story as well. And so thank you for being our
Thank you for
guest. But
having
guess
me.
what? I have a special surprise for our audience. Season one of The Power of Her Story was all about with your host, Raquel Beneby Hart. And as you know, or may not know, Raquel Beneby Hart is also the executive producer of The Power of Her Story and RBNTV. And so I taking on a more active role in the background. And so more of my focus will be producing some of the new shows that we have coming up on RBN TV for season two. We're just very excited. Yesterday, we were just recording one of our special series with Mama Sassy's in the kitchen. We also look forward to some of our new shows. If you haven't seen the flyers yet, please hit us up on our Facebook page. which is RBNTV. And you will see some of our new shows, which also include that's the Bahamian Arts and Entertainment. And we have some new hosts as well. And we are excited about these hosts. And sorry, there's one more show. It's actually public policy and politics. That's very interesting. Very interesting. And so that really is about sharing with our everyday community, the I call it not the high level conversation, but rather the under the tree conversation. And so I'm taking some more time in the background in developing content and working with these. And so I am delighted to say the power of our story has been entrusted into some capable hands. And so help me welcome and congratulate Letitia Campbell-Parker, our first guest of season. Oh yes, our
Thank
first
you. Thank you.
of season 2, and she's been able to connect and share her story. But she will be the face you see from this point on the Power Story. So I'll be the woman behind the cameras, behind the scene, working a little bit more closely with our production team as we continue to bring relatable content. RBN TV, as you know, is all about online and on demand, Bahamian inspired, globally focused shows, because we are about, and something hit me today in a conversation, as I also like to welcome Mrs. Stanton Forbes as a part of our production team. And you've always had with us Cranston, Lavelle, and Jordan, who have been working. People don't get to see them because they're always behind the scenes. They always see the host and our guest. But these guys, they are awesome, and they're the ones that make things happen. And so I'm the spoiled girl in the crew who will also be behind the scenes in working with them. And you know it's about being able to bring information to persons. I now look at it, RBN TV, not just as a YouTube channel, but it's a project. The project and our aim and mission objective. And yes, I'm recording from at home. As you know, COVID has many of us at home, so I'm preparing for curfew. And so I'm just getting a lot of noise in the background, but all that's a part of it. And I look at it as a project in the conversation today as I welcome Stanton Forbes to our team. And why a project? A project has a specific mission and objective. I mean, most things do. But I look at it because we're about the community. We want to be able to help people with relatable content. There oftentimes we have a large demographic of people within our communities, and I'm just not only talking about the Bahamas. I'm talking about around the world. Oftentimes we can watch the news, we can watch TV, and a lot of this conversation is high level. How does that benefit me? How does that trickle down to the everyday person who may not understand the thesis of something that you may have said, and how do they benefit? And so we have some people who are missing gaps and opportunities because they simply do not know, because they don't have access to information, or when they do get access to information, that information, they don't know how to relate to that information and translate that into something that helps them. And so that's what RBN TV is here for. So we talk about money, we talk about relationships, we talk about women, because excuse me, like they say, who run the world? So we have to talk about women. No, I'm not. I don't fall into that category of being, I call it a Miss Independence. I don't fall into that. And so I know that may have been a little sexist joke there. So please forgive me, men. We love you all. We can't do it without you. So we love you. And so that was just a little joke, not seriously taken. But we talk about arts and entertainment and music, and everything that encompasses a person's life. We're talking about bringing balance into your life. Sometimes we lean towards one particular thing, and you know someone said it the other day, and it was a common phrase of my mother. We're so heavenly minded till we know earthly good, but we have to live here. How do you live and survive in this world? How do you live and survive in the midst of COVID? How do you begin to, we use this word pivot, but in essence what it is, how do you adapt in the midst of not having a job? These are the things that we talk about, and we be real and transparent with our audience so that you can connect and you can be able to begin that transformation process in your life. We want to see you win. We want to see you succeed. And that's what we at the Power of Our Story is all about. Women helping women win. But as women win, We know families win because most times most families are led by women. And so they're the support system to their spouses and significant other, rather. And so when we can empower our people, we transform communities. And that's why our saying is building people, building communities. As we build you, we build communities. And so we're just excited to be able to welcome Letitia. You see, she comes with a wealth of knowledge. She's passionate and she's community driven as well. And so I'm just delighted. Welcome once again to being a part of the Power of Her Story family. And I am delighted to now step back and go behind the scenes and continue to develop content and shows that continue to empower our people and make a difference in our communities. And so thank you for tuning in tonight to the Power of Her Story. It has been my pleasure to have been your host in season 1, and for this one episode of season 2 to be able to introduce our new host. And I look forward to you continuing to be a part of our RBNTV community. We cannot do it without you. We invite you to invite others, like our page, like the YouTube channel, subscribe. So when new shows come on stream, you're able to watch them live. And if not, because they're on demand, they're recorded, you can always go back if you don't catch it live at a particular day to be able to go back and read and watch and enjoy and make your contribution to the conversation. And so God bless you all. And thank you for having me come into your homes. And I look forward to you being a part of all of our shows. Some 9 shows and growing because I'm working on some additional content. So we're really excited. So I'm taking the creative backseat at this time. And so it's been fun. But this journey in the front of the camera has now come to an end for the time being. And I now turn this wonderful platform over to Letitia Campbell-Parker. Please stay tuned and join her with her shows. She's going to be exciting. She's going to be a delightful host who is going to give you great information and continue to help you as a woman win. Yeah, long-winded. That's my way of saying bye-bye for now. Enjoy. Thank you for tuning in to the Power of Our Story and RBN TV. God bless.
You're watching RBNTV. We are networking, promoting, we're scoring points for you, proclaiming, declaring, here to encourage you. No matter the problem, we will enlighten you. We hear you, please listen. There is a point of view. You're watching RBNTV. We're transforming minds, empowering lives, inspired by kingdom principles.